Hi guys, hope you're all well. Back with another episode. Obviously, I said that I'm going to try and keep these going a little bit more. I've got plenty of sort of ideas and content that I want to put out. A lot of it's just things that I see through, social media, messages I get sent, stuff like that. Most of it is just what I see people doing, and sometimes mistakes that I've, made myself, and obviously learnt from them. So this one's more about suffering in the sense of like how hard you need to go, and something I often see is people, I guess, suffering too much, especially in the beginning when realistically there's probably not as much suffering that needs to be done to get some progress. Usually, this is down to people obviously wanting it too quick or just kind of jumping the gun and thinking, I see so and so who looks a certain way, they do this, so therefore I'm going to do exactly the same and I should look like them. Uh, but obviously, we know that, well, you should know, but sometimes I guess you don't consciously think that. Um, these things take time, and a lot of these people that are in the sort of shape and the physiques they have and stuff like that, they've obviously built their way up to them. And it isn't something that you can kind of just go from A to Z. Obviously, there's a lot of other steps leading towards that. So, just a few tips and things like that, covering a few things that maybe you've been there yourself, or maybe you might even be there now, or just to kind of help you avoid making these mistakes next time you do go into any sort of like, fat loss phase or anything like that. One of the first things is obviously you need to understand like how far you are away from your goal. So, I mean, if your goal is, for example, to have, abs, let's just say a six pack, be lean, or just a flat stomach, and you may be 2, 3 stone overweight, now you need to be more logical with your approach. Okay, you can't just go from doing fuck all, eating really badly to now I'm 100% on it. I'm going to be running every day. I'm going to be going gym every day, so on and so forth. And this is often what I see. People go on extremely low calories, and when I say extremely low, I mean even under 2,000 calories. If you're 3 stone overweight and you can be averagely active, couple of walks. Try and be active every single day, 30 minutes a day, you could probably get away with eating like 2,000, 2,200 calories and still lose some weight. That initial drop off comes quite quickly. And I think a lot of people mask that sort of progress because what they do is they go well overboard and they get the progress, but yet what they don't realize is that actually if they just took a bit of a slower approach, they'd still get the progress and they wouldn't be so burnt out. So depending on where you are, like obviously if you're someone who is lean and then they want to get shredded, you usually can't get away with just eating 2,200 calories and 30 minutes cardio a day. You do tend to have to you know push the envelope a little bit more and kind of put yourself through more in-depth stuff, and usually some and a lot, I guess, of suffering does occur. So where you are in your process or in your journey to where you want to get to, where you are now to where you want to get to, does matter. If you're at the start of your journey, you should not be suffering. You really should not be putting yourself through extreme measures. You do not need to. Your weight will come off. Majority of people's bodies do not want all that weight. They don't actually like having extra body fat or extra weight. It's not comfortable for the body, but at the end of the day, it can't do nothing about it if you're eating 3, 4 thousand calories a day and doing fuck all. So that's the first one. Moving on from there, is obviously something that I really, really, honestly can't get this into people's heads enough, is where your habits are. What are your current habits like? If you're currently someone who gets up in the morning and has some breakfast, fucking biscuit things, a cup of tea, doesn't eat until lunchtime, and then you'll have like a bacon and sausage stick or with a full fat Coke and a Mars bar, and then you'll come home and have a Chinese. Yeah, your eating habits aren't in line with what you're going to probably need to be like when it comes to you getting down to a lower percent body fat or dropping the weight that you need to. So working on that habit can obviously be very, very important. So start off with like maybe waking up and having a proper breakfast, something that's a little bit more filling, a little bit more nutritious, that's actually going to see you through the day. So when it comes to lunchtime, you might make some better choices out of the options that you do have, or even even if you're preparing your meals, stuff like that, if you don't prepare your meals and then you go into preparing 6 meals a day, that's going to become quite tiring. Whereas what you could do is just focus on preparing maybe the main meals, or just breakfast and then lunch, and then when you get home you can maybe just just step by step. So where you are at your habits is obviously very important. Same back to when I was saying about how far you are from your goal. If you're someone who already preps your meals, eats really well, trains frequently, does your cardio, hydrates well, sleeps, if you're ticking all of them boxes, then you're in a prime place to sort of put yourself in through that sort of stuff. Whereas if you don't have any of these habits in place and it's not more of a natural thing for you, you will struggle quite quickly if you do put too much demand on your body. And when I say demand and suffering, I do mean low calorie, high activity. So the habits are really important. There's certain habits that need to be in place that are very, very helpful. And a lot of clients that I kind of preach these habits to notice the difference very, very quickly. And one of the things this is one that I really, really like to implement for people is something so simple as just putting your phone down at 9 p.m., 9, 10 p.m. Not using your phone can go such a long way. And I think that's really important for people to know, that even something so little like that can actually give you, an extra edge, an extra couple of hours sleep, or maybe even just better sleep, which obviously will lead to more energy the next day, which will probably lead to you being in a better mood, which will probably lead to you making better food options. There's this snowball effect of these habits that are really important. So I highly recommend kind of, figuring out where you are in that. And that will give you a bit of an idea whether you should be suffering or not. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have all these things in place, these vital habits, and you're really far away from your goal, and then you're suffering, you're not going to keep it up. Yeah, there's a very, very few that keep it up, and the ones that do keep it up do tend to put the weight back on after. And it's really unfortunate, and it's something that I'm trying so hard to kind of change, especially with my clients. And thankfully, I've been pretty a good success rate with that, and I feel like that's because these are the sort of things that I encourage people. I don't rush the process. I teach them these things, and it's paying off, and so that's why I'm putting this stuff out there. The other one is obviously, where are your fitness levels at? I often see, or say for example, I take on a new client, I'm like, what are your goals? How many times can you train? And they're like, right, well, I'm going to get up and go for a run tomorrow morning. I'm going to do it, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. Are you even fit enough to run? If you're going to go for a run in the morning, it should benefit your day, it should improve your day, not take all of your energy and put you in pain and make you feel uncomfortable for the rest of the day. That's not enjoyable. That's not something that's going to lead to a long-lasting lifestyle. So where on the other hand, if you are someone who's used to running and it's part of your lifestyle, then that's absolutely fine. So you need to understand where your fitness levels actually lie before you start selecting a program, or whether you should be pushing yourself. If you're someone whose fitness levels are really high, running 5k isn't difficult. Whereas if you're someone who doesn't run 5k frequently, that getting to that 5k is going to be a journey itself, and then you excel from there. So I highly recommend kind of finding a nice sort of area where it's pushing you, but not too much. Honestly, for most people, I do just say do steps. I find running taxing for a lot of people with their lifestyle and stuff like that. It's not always ideal. It's nice, it gets a heart rate up, but you can do that through your training as well. But the time comes where, I've had clients that want to run. I've got clients that run marathons or have done marathons and want to do marathons, half marathons, stuff like this. Absolutely fine. Part of your program, something you want to do it. But they're fit enough, they've not gone from don't run at all to now I'm going to do a marathon. If you're going to make that decision that you want to start running, you want to lose weight because you need to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure on your joints when you're running. Your fitness levels are up there so that running isn't overly taxing for you in general throughout the day. And there's other variables as well. So understanding where your fitness levels lie can be massive for you. Moving on, obviously this does kind of correlate with that a little bit, is your training experience. I talk about this quite a lot. I've spoken about it on other podcasts as well, because I feel like people just jump in the deep end, and the reason why I say this is because if you're following a workout program that's created for someone who is fit, you will struggle. If you're doing like fucking circuits with all these different exercises that are really taxing on the body and really working your cardiovascular system. Yes, okay, it will adapt and it will kind of get there eventually, but then that will only happen if you are sticking to it. And majority of the time people find it very taxing. They stop enjoying it after a week or two because the fun's gone from it, and now they're just blowing out their ass and they just don't enjoy it. So understand where your training experience is, you know, obviously take that into consideration alongside your fitness levels and habits. Yeah, and then obviously how far you are from your goal. So as you can see, all of these things, as you go through the process, these factors all correlate with each other, and that is why I've put them in this order. Because at the end of the day, if your training isn't in line with your fitness levels, you are going to struggle, which means that then your habits are going to have to be very in place for you to be able to manage everything whilst you're tired and stressed from trying to keep up with your fitness levels and training experience. And then obviously you've got to take into consideration how far you are from your goal, because if you're very far from your goal, then you've got to keep it up for longer. Yeah, so they take that into consideration. So your training experience is very important for selecting a type of program that's actually going to not just get you results, obviously test you. You want it to be tough. I'm not saying like just, anything easy is what you want to be doing, but you have to know when to stop. And a lot of people, they get carried away in the moment and, push, more's better, more's better, more's better, and actually start to lose a lot of their performance, and their fatigue builds up, and that correlates and follows into other days, and you'll start to see it as your workouts go on and stuff like that. So learning from kind of my own experience and working with clients is you're better off to back off and then push yourself towards it and build towards it than what you are to kind of just jump straight in the deep end. Obviously, unless you're fit enough, and habits and everything in place. So it all kind of stems from the start, I guess. But these things are very, very important. And for me, I think looking back over my own personal experience and stuff like that, I have developed a very keen, or very, I guess, good understanding of how my body works and when I'm pushing it too much. And I'm more than happy to back off and have a rest day, And when I say happy, I don't mean happy as in like I look forward to the rest day, because I don't. But what I do is I do look forward to having that ability to perform at my max or close to my max again. And having that awareness is very important, rather than just trying to push through walls all the time. And you shouldn't need to suffer so much. You shouldn't need to. If you give yourself enough time and you kind of have the right plan in place, things are going to be tough. You'll have the odd day here and there, but you shouldn't be suffering so much from the start. I've seen and hear people that are kind of well overweight and they're like, oh, I'm starving. I'm eating 1,700 calories and doing 15,000 steps, and I'm doing this workout, running, doing this. And it's like, you're well out there. You're doing stuff that you don't need to be doing now. That sort of stuff you could do when you're like visible abs and you want to just get that little bit tighter. But this is why I'm putting this stuff out there, so hopefully people can learn. Because like I say, I've made all these mistakes myself, several times, and this is why I'm putting this out there. So, and then the final one is just, how should your training and nutrition actually look? Okay, and what I mean by this is, going off of all of the points that I've just given you, you need to try and figure out like how your training and nutrition should look. So, for example, I'm going to go through them. If you are well away from your goal, you've got none of the good habits in place, your fitness levels are shit, and your training experience is very minimal. Yeah, you've been gym for like 2 months, stopped for 6 months, went again for 2 months. Yeah, so let's just say you're the furthest away you could possibly be to some extent. Your training should be very basic and very simple. 3 resistance workouts a week is more than enough, and then active for 30 minutes every single day, 30-minute walk. Yeah, that is how basic your training should look for you to get probably, I'd say, the best results possible, maintainable results, continuous results, and also not be overly stressed and it being too taxing on you and your lifestyle. Nutrition, exactly the same. You don't need to be eating chicken, rice, and broccoli every single meal when you're at this point. Just count your calories. Yeah, higher protein diet, keep within your calorie range. If you're like, let's just say you're 2,200 calories, you weigh 200 pounds. Let's give you 180 grams of protein, whatever the rest of the calories are, make them up of whatever food you want, right? So we're just keeping within a calorie range. That's where we start, okay? We're on basic steps, 10 to 12K steps a day. That would be including the 30-minute exercise. So if you're already doing that, then don't worry. And then 3 workouts. So we are right at the start. This is how our program starts, okay? It's the most basic program, but it's the most effective for you in this position. Now, as we move through this process, you know, as your habits start to get better, as your nutrition, as your fitness levels get better, now we need to make sure that we're replenishing certain things. Now we need to make sure that other factors are there so that we can push ourselves to that next level. And this is how you go through your journey of you should do without suffering so much, because as you're getting through these phases, you're developing and adapting and learning and progressing. What people do is they kind of skip that bit and then they get fucked up. And that's the kind of thing that I want to try and help people avoid. So I highly recommend just taking into consideration a lot of these points, if not all of them, and realize that your starting position should be based off of you and where you are and what you should be doing, not what you want to look like and what you want to do, okay? Because that seems to be what people do. You know, they see this athlete, or you know, some people look at, like, for example, my cardio is high, you know, at the moment. I love doing cardio. It's a big part of my life. It's something that I've always done. But my fitness levels correlate with that. You know, my fitness levels are up there. Now, if I wasn't that fit, I wouldn't be doing that amount of cardio because it's too taxing. And when I do back off, my cardio gets better. You know, if I take like a couple of days away from cardio, when I come back to do cardio, bang, get on the bike or whatever I'm doing, and the levels are improved, and I feel better, and it's easier, and my fitness levels are higher, and I can push harder. And eventually, throughout the week, that drops off, or maybe 2 weeks, depending on how everything else is in place, or sometimes longer. And then it drops off, and then, right, okay, now we rest, we recover, and then we go again. Okay, now these are factors that you need to take into consideration. So just to kind of go over everything, you know, how much should you be suffering in the beginning? Not a lot. It should be easy. I literally would say 100% of my clients, and that's obviously a big thing to say, tell me how easy their plans are, but they're getting results and they can't believe it because of what they've done in the past. And that's why I'm saying this stuff, you know. So you should not be suffering too much in the beginning, and your suffering should kind of be in line with where you are with your goals, where you are, your habits, your fitness levels, and your training experience. How much you suffer should be moving with that. You know, all of these things should be getting better and pushing and pushing and pushing. So basically, you're not actually suffering that much at all throughout the journey. There's just going to be little bits where you're going to be tough and you adapt and move forward. So I hope that all makes sense. Obviously, I know that it's kind of a lot to take on, I guess, but I hope this kind of opens your eyes a little bit to some things, because this is the sort of information I wish I knew 5 to 10 years ago, because it would be a hell of a lot easier now. But it is getting better. You know, I think there's a lot more good information out there. I do think a lot of people now are putting out information that's actually beneficial for people, and obviously helping them in the right way, rather than, you know, for me, a lot of it is psychological, a lot of it is understanding lifestyles and stuff like that. You know, anyone can just tell you to be in a calorie deficit, and this frustrates the hell out of me. Yes, a calorie deficit is key, but there's so many other factors involved as well, you know. So try and take these things into consideration. These are sort of things that I prefer to talk about, rather than just talking about calories in versus calories out. Ultimately, if you haven't got all these other things in place, how are you going to get the calories in versus calories out bit sorted? So I hope that helps in some way. Thanks for listening. If you have listened to the end, if you do have any questions or anything, just drop me a message. Email me, contact@rickybrodyfitness.co.uk. Just message me through my website, theleanlifestyle.co.uk, just whatever, or just drop me a message on Instagram, Ricky Brody Fitness. And I hope that this has helped, and I will hopefully be dropping another one soon.